This is going to be a compilation of video that I've acquired over the last couple of days. I'll add some commentary at the end, but in order to keep the audio and video from going too far out of sync, I'm just going to go through these clips that I've acquired, and then we'll talk about the meaning and the implication of all of them afterwards. They're not in a specific order. Some of the subject material of the second one might connect to the fifth one.
Yesterday I was horrified when the Maui chief of police announced that they had arrested a witness and warned anybody else from showing up and documenting the scene, documenting the evidence.
That's why we can't have you walking down there. And we had to arrest somebody for trespassing. And so if we want to keep doing this and slowing it down, keep doing that. Do a Freedom of Information Act and figure out who that person is. Tell that story. Knock it off.
So we're hearing that they're banning journalists from going and covering what's going on in Maui. I decided to call the Maui police to confirm and to get some more details. Here's the call.
Aloha, you have reached the non-emergency line at the Maui Police Department.
Maui Police, how can I help you?
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I'm with media, and I was going to go to the scene to report and film and upload, but I'm hearing that people are being arrested for being journalists. Is that true? Or is media forbidden is my question.
Nobody's allowed in the disaster area because they're still working on clearing it and making it safe, and they're still getting the deceased out of there, so they don't want people walking around on the deceased bodies.
Okay. And how big is that zone? Is it just the small region, or is it multiple miles? Just the whole region?
I'm sorry, your phone cut out.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, last question. How big is the region that is banning the press?
Yeah, I don't have that information. Let me give you a number to call. Okay, you can call the mayor's office. It's area code 808.
So to me, this screams a cover-up. This is one of the most important events in modern American history. And they don't want journalists to be able to document the evidence. And they're using the excuse that there are deceased bodies. I find this all very, very suspicious, concerning, and horrifying.
Crazy. I mean, there's so much going on. I understand that, like the Houston fires and everything, all this stuff is coming out right now, the Hawaii fires, but what I'm about to tell you is basically not being looked at because we had so much information overload come out over the last few days. This was a mulch fire as well that hundreds of firefighters are battling. But before we get into the big information here, but they're going to be using King Charles for this next
neighborhoods. Listen to this.
Maui police blockaded escape
So I went
routes.
around back to Front Street, and there was all the cars were lined up, but none of them were moving. And I walked all the way from Safeway to the Chart House. Not one car had moved. And I was wondering what was stopping the traffic. Well, it was a policeman. And I got to the end, and I looked up north. There were no obstructions. There was no reason to keep those cars there.
Are you serious?
I'm serious as a heart attack. And I said, what are you doing? He goes, well, I'm under orders to keep them here. And I said, the fire is right around Safeway. It's going to hit Front Street. You know, these people got to get out of here. And he said, I'm following orders.
No way.
And so I just kept walking. Well, maybe he knows something I don't, you know. So, and I keep walking down the highway, and I look behind, no cars are coming out. I walked all the way to Waikuli Beach, still no cars coming out. And I started hearing boom, boom, boom. And then I heard people screaming and stuff.
You're saying they were blockaded in by the police at the end of Front Street?
Yeah.
Like where the restaurant is?
Right, where the Chart House
Where the Chart House was, I should
Right.
say. There was a blockade there, and they could not go any further.
Right. I walked.
What the hell?
I walked all the way from Safeway to there. Not one car had moved, and people walking in front of me. The people in the cars are saying, "Would you like a ride?" And they're going, "Oh, okay." And they'd get in. They asked me, I said, "No, you better get out of here." You know. But they just, well, we were told to evacuate by car. Okay. So I just kept walking, and I got all the way to, like I said, the Civic Center, and then I started hearing all the explosions, and there was no one walking behind me or on bicycles or anything.
Disaster is still, well, it's sort of being revealed. You know, they are building a wall. They have a no drone law in effect. No drones, and they are building a wall that they say is a dust screen, and they're blocking people from going in and seeing the area. Yeah.
And no one is ready. This right here is so large, so critical, and a lot of people are not seeing this picture, but you are, because you're here right now. First though, look how crazy it's getting in not California, but Canada.
Pitch black. The sky was red. The traffic was moving slow. It was insane. It was really scary.
Holly Bolio, her 2 kids, and a friend fled the wind-fueled flames that were racing towards Hay River.
45 minutes, an hour after we passed a certain spot, that the fire did jump a road there.
Similar terror for the thousands forced to flee.
And we're talking about an entire city had to be evacuated. An entire city. The military had to come in literally with the planes to come and pick them up. So Hawaii, Maui is not the only place this stuff is going on. We're seeing large events start to break out across different sectors, and we got to get you down into something that's going to be installed worldwide, that all of these events that you're talking about do energy weapons in. Yeah, the world is about to be in for a big one. So I'm going to detail to you what's going on here, because I think this is so critical. But before we do this, have any of you actually...
Hey there, friends, family, and loved ones all. I want to do a recap of still what's went down in Paradise in 2018, November 8th, and what they did. And we need to look back in order to understand, so by looking back, but they destroyed a lot of restaurants. This is one of them. But I've got a first-person testimony I'm going to play here from a gentleman who owned the Roadhouse Cafe, and it's right by the Paradise Fire Department, which was burned, but a mile and a half up the road, the Cal Fire Department, Cal Fire building was not touched whatsoever. So listen to this testimony here. So this is the house that was torched right off the road here, 70, coming up from coming down from Campfire. Even stone. I wonder what the sign said here. Here's a gentleman cleaning some property. Okay, we're keeping it simple, okay? We're not gonna, we just want to ask a little bit. You guys okay? Do you live here? I mean, is this your place?
Yeah, it was our place.
What was the name? What was the sign of the name of the place?
You want a terminal cleaner?
No, I got plenty.
Pull over. Can we get on
Restaurant?
What?
The Rock House Restaurant.
Were you here when it happened?
No, the firemen forced me out of my house at 3 a.m. in the morning. And then they drove out behind me and it burned a couple hours later.
Wait, the fires didn't start till 6:30.
Go check in the next morning, Friday morning.
So you stayed here when it started?
Yeah, see, the fire was going west pretty fast. But this way to the south, it was going slower than a baby crawls. They could have easily stopped it at Deadwood or down here at Dogwood, or there was a number of places they could have stopped it.
Oh.
I'm sorry, man. Can we help at all? We got clothes, we got food. Do you need anything?
We've gotten lots of that from donation centers. I appreciate it.
Okay. Do you know where we can give our stuff to, where we can help? Do you know where people need it?
You know what? I know there's a house there on Concal and Deadwood.
Uh-huh.
You know where that is?
Yeah, I know where that is, yeah.
It survived. It's a big house, like
okay.
3-story or something. And they're setting up a donation center here locally.
So why didn't they come help you?
What's that?
Why didn't they come help you if they could have put it out?
I don't know, but when they forced me out at 3 a.m., I drive down to where the hardware store is 2 miles down the road. There's 50 engines lined up in a neat row. Sitting there dark, multiple dozers, nobody around.
While the fires are burning? Mm-hmm. Was the road passable here? It looked like this was hell to getting out of here.
Well, Friday morning, yeah. The fire didn't come through the pass up there until about 6 o'clock.
In the morning?
Uh-huh.
So Thursday morning it started at 6:30. Paradise got torched at 8:30 in the morning. And that's down below here. So the campfire, they're saying it started at Polga.
Paradise is west.
Okay, gotcha.
And it was moving west pretty fast, but this way from the fire was south, and it was just crawling.
And they had all the bulldozers down below the road here, and they didn't bring them up the hill.
2 miles down the highway, they had row of 25 parked through the middle of the highway, another row of 25 parked off the side. They had all sorts of equipment. None of it ever got used.
What do you make of that?
Obviously an order was given from the very top not to stop it. They defended select structures here and there.
Hospital was saved, right?
Like
Gas stations are fine.
Like the politicians' structures, houses, those are all there.
I hear it's a good old boy network up here.
Fire station's fine. You know.
Why are they clear cutting the trees around the fire stations and off the roads where there's no power lines?
Dude, I came back a few weeks ago. Went up here and talked to 3 PG&E contract tree trimmers. I'm like, guys, you're off your easement here. You're chopping down undamaged trees off your easement.
Off
you're
your easement.
trespassing, you're vandalizing my land.
They got 30 feet off the road, right? There's their easement?
They called the sheriff on me and I got arrested for making criminal threats, which I never made. I just said, stop this, knock it off.
The local sheriff?
Uh-huh.
They got nothing better to do than come arrest you for questioning what they're doing.
They're obviously in bed with PG&E and everybody else that chose not to stop the fire.
So sorry, man.
So sorry.
What are you going to do?
I don't know. Try to rebuild and take it one day at a time, but...
How's it going, man? Yeah, I'm down from Santa Rosa, and we had the same thing happen to us a year ago, and I'm coming up here and I'm saying the same shit.
You guys lost your stuff?
Oh, they torched this area, left the laser company places fine. They torched another area, left the hospital
laser
fine.
company?
Oh yeah, Quayside, the Hewlett Packard and Fountain Grove, they burned everything else out, but the Quayside place was fine. No, this was directed energy weapons. They came in here and torched the place. Look at the hill scarring across the Feather River there, and you can see some areas were just like a laser came right down it.
The line back
Yeah, there's a line right here through the middle of our property.
line like a laser line.
Dense,
Burnt
thick
and
forest.
Stopped, all of a sudden stopped.
Just have it.
How can I
in
film that? How can I get access anywhere to see it?
You guys can just park here and walk back if you want. I'll show you.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
Can I drive? We're adding, because of the Department of Transportation, a dust screen, but it also obstructs the view, which is a good thing, because we don't need people stopping over on the side and trying to exploit some of the different things that are going in.
They have shut down our ability to fly drones in West Maui.
We understand the freedom of the press, but when we were here 2 days ago, there was a national news site actually standing on Front Street streaming. We're adding, because of the Department of Transportation, a dust screen, which does a couple things. It actually blocks the dust and the debris with the winds coming out, but it also obstructs the view, which is a good thing, because we don't need people stopping over on the side and trying to exploit some of the different things that are going in. It's a large scene. And so we're going to ask that you travel to and from where you need to go, and you don't pull over, because you're going to be warned and then you're going to be towed.
They have shut down our ability to fly drones in West Maui, which was not the case immediately after the fire. And personally, I'm wondering what changed. Now, you see the red box there. That covers most of the zone that burned, or maybe all of it. And this was not a problem. A few days after the fire. When this happened, we went down, and luckily we got a lot of good, high-quality 4K footage.
That's why we can't have you walking down there. And we had to arrest somebody for trespassing. And so if we want to keep doing this and slowing it down, keep doing that. Do a Freedom of Information Act and figure out who that person is. Tell that story. Knock it off.
Moreover, I would caution people that it's going to be a very long time before any growth or housing can be built.
As I was making this video of the grease fires a year or two ago, I noticed something while I was making the video. and it has to do with the fire moving the opposite direction of the wind. I've spoken of this before. I've seen images that look just like the one you're looking at in Canada and in a bunch of other places. But watch me discover this while I'm making the video.
You see what I'm saying now? Whatever this is, it's a fire break, but the perfect line goes all the way through it, like a magnetic flux line moving its way across the ground like this, because everything over here is already, it's the wind is moving that way. How is that? Everything over here is green and everything over there is already burned. The wind is moving that way. You can see everything over here is green. Wind is blowing that way, but the magnetic line under the ground that's burning everything from the inside out is coming this way. And that's why everything over here is already burned and everything over here is still green, but you can see the smoke is headed that way. That would mean it's been burned over here and it's headed that way, but no, it's been burned over here and it's headed this way. Now that is some additional gravy. That is bonus gravy I just threw in there right there. That just came to me right now. The fact that the smoke's headed the other way. What I was going to show you is that this break, this fire break from here to here,
so this image exemplifies what can be seen from drones and helicopters of all of the fires. I don't know if it's just part of how this system works. The wind is associated with these fires. The wind kicks up simultaneously, but you'll see an image that looks just like this, where the smoke is blowing back over the burn area. That means the fire line that you see there is traveling the opposite direction of the smoke. If it was traveling the same direction as the smoke, then everything over here would be burned because the smoke is headed that way. So the fire, if it was headed the same direction as the smoke, would have burned everything over here, and this would still be green. But that's not what you see. Everything over here is already burned. Everything over here is still green. That means this fire is headed that direction, the opposite direction of the smoke. So I'm going to take a look at some of the cars from Maui and just point out that the damage done to these cars is more extensive on the front end, under the hood, around the engine block than the rear end. And the normies will tell you the reason that these cars burned, this is from the Greece fires a couple years ago. Oh, and by the way, Greece is on fire again. I just did a video a day or two ago showing you plasma fire on the island of Rhodes. It's just off of Greece, with the tree burning from the inside. So this is from the Greece fires a couple years ago, but it has all the same burn patterns. These cars get burned more on the front end than the rear end or the middle of the car. And the normie who watches CNN and regurgitates what they're told, they'll say embers. The reason that there were boats burning out in the water 50 yards out from the shore is because the embers blew and touched those boats and it made them burn. And the reason you'll see cars in the middle of a giant parking lot with no trees anywhere around them and they're all burnt to a crisp is because embers blew and touched those cars. And then you say, well, wouldn't the embers also blow and burn the palm trees that are still standing everywhere? And their brain starts to glitch. My point here is, they'll even say, oh, there's fire-nados. That's why it melts the metal, is because there's this new term they came out with a couple years ago called fire-nado, where the wind whips in a whirlwind fashion, increasing the temperatures up to 2,000 miles an hour. Even if that's the case, how would one of these fire-nados consistently hit the front of the... Correction, I meant 2,000 degrees. Rather than the 1,400 degree maximum forest fire temperature, which is far below the melting point of metal, they will say these fire-nados increase the temperature up to 2,000 degrees. Car harder than the rear or the middle of the car, because it's not fire NATO, it's electromagnetic. The engine block is the densest part of the vehicle. It acts as an antenna and draws that electromagnetic energy that I call plasma fire. So we're going to look at a couple more of these cars from Greece, and then look at some of the cars from Maui. I'll just leave the link in the description for this video where I cover the Grease fires. Here you can see there's a long line of these cars where the trees are unburned over here and the trees are unburned over here, but all the way right down the center on the asphalt where the cars aren't anywhere near any trees, they're all melted. Here's from a 73 car plasma fire around Halloween last year. There's nothing but very short grass beneath these cars, and the normie once again will tell you, one of them caught fire, and then that caught the one next to it on fire, and that caught the one next to it on fire, but we're at a point now where people are going to start to wake the fuck up. And this may be actually intentional to cause the awakening. We'll talk about that another time. Maybe at the end, some commentary about how some of this seems intentional to agitate people to the point where they wake up. Always, 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 the front of the car is destroyed compared to the rest of the car. Where did the hood go on that car? Oh, it burned? It just, sublimation, went from solid to liquid to gas all in one fell swoop? Again, with the front of the car being more destroyed than the rest of the car. Again and again and again. And the rust that appears on the car instantly through a process of electrolysis that uses the smoke as a medium of ion exchange rather than using water over the duration of time to rust the metal, it happens instantly. Electrolysis, using the smoke as a medium of ion exchange rather than water. And these are from Maui. This is from a video that was shot in vertical video that I'll play at the end of this. Might have to flip the phone sideways, it might come out very small. But there you can see the front end of a car. Oops. Is destroyed. And it's one after another. These aren't the best examples. You'll see even better examples here in a moment. The front of the car is destroyed. By comparison, even with a fire NATO, even with embers and whatever excuse normies tell themselves, they cannot explain why the front of the car burns more than the rest of the car. Make them squirm. They're going to have a real rude awakening. The sooner the better, because it's going to be a rough ride. The longer it takes. Because they are all going to come to terms with this. The truth is going to have its way with everybody. That one's just the back of a car. But again, showing that the back of the car remains unlike the front of the car, which is disintegrated by comparison. This is from Kenosha, Wisconsin, where the riots in the streets led to someone getting shot and the trial of the century by Kyle Rittenhouse, who was defending 3 different I don't know if it was used or new car dealerships. He was defending car dealers. He shot someone, maybe multiple people, and he was known forever after as the Kenosha Kid, Kenosha, Wisconsin, where there were some of those riots. Now, looking at these cars, can you burn a car with a matching gasoline in such a way where the hood disappears and the rest of the car turns to rust? No. This is a pattern that we recognize. So, we might be getting played here because the official story is these cars got burned by hoods, by thugs and vandals who were breaking the windows and lighting fires. I did a whole video on this called Plasma Fire from Kenosha to Kazakistan. If there is a natural phenomenon going on, they are going to direct the attention of the public toward directed energy weapons because the people will be ungovernable if they recognize this is a natural phenomenon occurring over which the government has no control. And I've said many times, I know they have the ability to direct this energy because if nothing else of the 5 Secret Service cars of Joe Biden's that have the same damage under the hood and only under the hood. That proves they can direct this energy. But I also think there's a natural phenomenon going on as part of the magnetic pole shift. So, if there is a natural phenomenon going on and they can also direct it, it would behoove them to direct it very publicly, to get the public's attention, to prove that this can be directed. Therefore, everyone assumes that it's all directed energy. Because if people figure out that we're in the middle of a magnetic pole shift, the governments have no power to do anything about it, they will become powerless to govern the people. The people will become ungovernable. So it would make natural sense as a psychological operation to put those directed energy weapons right out in the public's view and allow them to know about this. And every plasma fire that happens thereafter or has ever happened before will be written off as another directed energy weapon. Because if you believe that there's human hands pulling the levers of these directed energy weapons, well then we rely on our government to find out who's pulling the levers of those weapons and get them to quit directing it our way. If you think that this is part of the Earth's magnetic field fluctuating, creating these surges of ground current that are out of control, well then you're not going to rely on the government for anything because you're going to know they're powerless over it as anybody else is. And I've said this for a long time, many times. They would much rather you, the general public, believe this is man-made, directed energy weapons, rather than believing that this is a natural phenomenon for the reason that I have just described. You recognize the pattern? This is from Kenosha, Wisconsin, where they said this happened because thugs that were out rioting in the streets, or maybe they have the ability to direct and juice up these fires. Because these cars that burned in Kenosha, Wisconsin during those BLM Antifa riots burned in such a way that no human is capable of producing with a can of gas and a match. So, we're going into a big operation, and they're probably going to tie the UFO alien disclosure phenomenon in with the plasma fires. Everything is a distraction. People keep saying, oh, it's a distraction, it's a distraction. What's it a distraction from? How about the plasma fire? Everything that you've seen from COVID to the war in Ukraine could be a distraction from plasma fire and pole shift. That is of great enough magnitude that it would make sense that they create distractions of equal magnitude like COVID, the war in Ukraine. Trying to think of the latest one they have on tap for us. But this energy, where the fluctuation in the magnetic field creates a surge of ground current, and then they can direct it and weaponize it, could also be used for free energy, because there is a much greater return on your investment. If they have technology that can stretch the magnetic flux lines and then release them and they snap back together like a rubber band, and through those vibrations, the fluctuating magnetic field creates a surge of ground current and they can direct it, they could direct it in a beneficial way. And it takes a small amount of energy to stretch those magnetic flux lines compared to what it produces when you release them and they snap back together like rubber bands and create the surge of ground current. And obviously, if we could direct it, we could direct it into a battery. We could direct it in less destructive ways. That is free energy, where there is a much greater return on your investment of energy, because it only takes 1,000 kilowatts to stretch those flux lines and release them, and you get 1,000,000,000,000 kilowatts coming back up through the ground when those flux lines are released. That is free energy that has been weaponized and kept secret. So along with all this UFO disclosure stuff comes technology that has been hidden from us for a long time and been weaponized. Can you picture what will be so limitless and free when you're desperately in need of some stranger's hand in a desperate land? 'Cause this is the end, my only friend, the end of our elaborate plans, my friend, of everything that stands, the end. I'll do a separate video coming up soon with the Muse messages revolving around fire. And I'll try and not get too distracted. Here you go. These images do justice. These were the fires in Greece. Forest fires that burn these cars, right? But you can see on both sides of the road, all of those trees fared much better than the cars in between them. And those were supposedly the source of the heat that burned these cars. But you can see the trees did not burn, only the cars. There is a reckoning coming real soon. When people have this volume of evidence to look back over, once they can see it, they'll be able to see it everywhere they look. This is part 2. The silent 9/11 goes unnoticed. A new Pearl Harbor to worldwide to unite us all under something. But listen to what I say at the very beginning of this. It's part 2, because the phone I had would only record so much and then it would switch over to the next video. So I'm crack the magnetic field. We're going to part number 2. So I've said before that when they cracked the magnetic field, my brother-in-law saw a flashing bright star during the day while the fires were going in Spanish Fork. They can charge the fiber optic lasers for free when the magnetic field is cracked open and the solar plasma is flowing in, and direct it. Otherwise, the natural phenomenon is something more like what you saw with the straight line burning across the field, where a magnetic flux line is moving across the ground. And I think in some cases, they're actually directing it out into the rural areas in the wilderness so that it doesn't ground out. This could just be a natural filament grounding out right here between the earth and the sky, or it could be directed. But I believe there is evidence of what appears to be both.
Look at those saplings down there. They didn't burn.
Is he talking about the people here, the saplings?
The vehicles, the cars are completely
How dare he
melted,
talk about them
metal.
like that?
And yet these little twigs and stuff, they didn't burn. And yet the fire was supposed to have reached the cars from the trees.
How dare he?
Look at this car, it's melted into the road.
And that's the other thing. We might have an explanation why these cars were all flipped over. So I'm just going to spare you the audio and show you some of these images from the Grease fires.
because this is a prime example with all those trees on both sides of the road unburned. And they tell you it was a forest fire that led to all these cars being burned. Notice the front end will be destroyed on all of these cars. Like that. Oh, but that one still has a hood. Many of them don't even have a hood remaining. But most of all, notice all the trees on both sides of the road. Unburned. Cars destroyed in ways that we have never seen before. This is an alien force. And I've tried to get people to participate in the discovery and the disclosure process of this alien force for 5 years. So there's a lot of evidence. People are going to have no shortage of educational material to educate themselves with when they finally come around to realize the end of the world as they knew it happened a long time ago. And I feel fine. It's the end of the world and we know it. We didn't start the fire. It's been always burning since the earth's been turning. Like the fire of electricity. Notice the green leaves on the trees beside the road? Those are green leaves on the trees. Look at all the leaves. And this was a forest fire, they said. And the people were willing to accept that. That's just as great of a phenomenon as the plasma fire itself. The fact that you can tell people it was a forest fire that burned these cars, and the forest surrounding these cars is unburned, and the people go about their day, taking whatever you've just told them that is complete nonsense. These that you see right here, these are the trees that burned on the inside. The pieces you see there. I've got plenty of videos, lots of pieces, where I chopped down these trees that burned on the inside and lacquered them. Link to this video will be in the description. And there are others that I've created that just focus on these hollowed out trees that I've lacquered. But let's not get distracted here. That, with all of those trees that still have their leaves, should be the center of attention. Should be the focus of our attention. These are fires that were in Gatlinburg, Tennessee within the last couple of years. And as you can see, houses burnt clear to the ground, trees all around the houses and in between the houses are still standing. The fact that people haven't noticed this is a bigger phenomenon than the plasma fire itself. This is showing us something about ourselves. The true state of the human condition, that this can happen, and you tell them it was a forest fire, and they go about their business because the authorities said it was forest fire, so it was forest fire. Even though the forest is still unburned and it was just the houses and the cars. We're getting ready to learn. Learning is a difficult process. It requires discarding old ideas with new. Accommodation rather than assimilation in order to adapt. Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Maybe I'll turn the volume up just for a second.
It's intact, and yet the ground. What's he saying? Wheelhouse. Dollywood remains unscathed, while community and the chairs them.
Oh, hey, Dollywood remains unscathed. Well, that's another pattern too. All the mansions, all the high-end ritzy areas, those always seem to be unscathed. People are about to wake up to this. And this may be our Archduke Ferdinand moment for the American version of the French Revolution. Let's hope not. Let's hope calmer, cooler heads prevail. But when people realize they can't be mad, you cannot blame censorship, media censorship, the government, Facebook, YouTube, and the news outlets for censoring the truth from us. The fact that this is all around you for anyone to be able to see, and they chose not to, means it's their own fault. They did not want to know the truth. It is cognitive dissonance and denial at its highest level, greater than anything we've ever seen. So much so that there will be a disorder or a syndrome named after this pattern of behavior that is now seen in human beings. Plasma fire disorder, plasma fire syndrome, the ability for something of such magnitude to be happening all around you, but you not to be able to see it. No one could have hid this from you. You cannot blame the news censorship of the media for the fact that people can't see this. They have no one to blame but themselves, and they should learn something about themselves when they discover this has been right in front of my face the whole time, along with all of my neighbors, and none of us could see it. And you must learn about yourself. Your self-image and your worldview must change drastically. And you must not blame the media for not telling me, because it was so fucking obvious. You have no one to blame but yourself for the fact that you couldn't see it. Sin makes you unable to see. Jacking off makes you go blind. Maybe you had priorities that were making you want comfort and convenience rather than the truth. So you were willing to believe anything, no matter how ridiculous, like, oh, it was a forest fire that burned down all these houses and cars, even though all the forestry is unburned. It was comfortable and convenient for you to believe that, so you chose to believe it. In spite of the obvious truth, it's 2 + 2 = 5 level of Orwellian doublethink and black-white, where you hold two contradictory ideas in mind and believe them both to be true at the same time. That it was a forest fire that burned all these houses down, and the forest remains unburned. Those are contradictory terms, aren't they? But you believed it, because you wanted to. You have no one to blame but yourself. Yet people will want to blame someone else. The media hid this from us. This shows you the condition of the herd of human livestock and why they need to have shit hidden from them. Because they are incapable of seeing the truth even when it's right in front of their face. So you need to tell them something comfortable and convenient to pacify them and keep them docile. Because once the herd gets spooked, they stampede. Like he said in Men in Black, individuals are smart. People are dumb, scared animals, and you know it. That was his words quoted from the movie Men in Black, referring to the people knowing the truth. He said, well, individuals are smart. People are dumb, scared, easily spooked animals, something like that. He used another word. This video is titled Part 2, The Silent 9/11 Goes Unnoticed, a new Pearl Harbor worldwide to unite us in our shared fate. We're there. We're crossing the finish line. It's been a long time coming. I've done this for 5 years. This is my 6th summer since the summer of 2018. 18-19, 2021, 22-23. That's 6 summers. 5 years later, the world is still unaware of what's happening around them. It will take a lot to restore my faith in humanity, something as great of a magnitude as that which destroyed it. Them not being able to see what's happening around them changed my perception of who they are and what they are. I thought we were all the same. Humanity has proven to me we are not the same. Maybe I'm a different breed. Maybe I'm not listening. Just blame it on your ADD, baby. The public has shown they have a major attention deficit disorder. And this is how an angel cries. I blame it on my own sick pride. Blame it on my ADD, baby. And what is everyone be singing? Maybe I should cry for help. Maybe I should kill myself. Just blame it on my ADD, baby. We're 45 minutes into this. I'm going to cut it here.